for truth.
Welcome to Duality Check, the podcast where two brothers embark on a journey through the realms of scientific inquiry, the mysteries of the past, and the uncharted frontiers of spirituality. Join us as we explore the wonders of our world and beyond, all while embracing the roles of curious bystanders rather than experts. Together, we'll unravel the tapestry of existence, blending the dichotomies of knowledge and wonder. Get ready to question, ponder, and delve into the dualities that shape our understanding of reality on Duality Check. I'm Drew.
And I'm Dean, and welcome to episode number 48.
What do we got today?
I think, are just going to be covering a lot of it for the first time for us, too. The new UFO hearing stuff that came out this week.
Yeah, there was a congressional hearing on, what was the name of the hearing? They had a name. It was like diving into uncovering the truth or something like that.
I've got the full joint subcommittee hearing, unidentified anomalous phenomena exposing the truth.
Exposing the truth, that's it. This was a joint subcommittee hearing.
Yeah, Wednesday, November 13th, 2024.
Yeah, so they had the witnesses. They had Lue Elizondo as one of the witnesses, and they had Michael Shellenberger, who is a reporter.
Timothy Gallaudet.
Is that who it was? Okay, I don't know the other two people.
Yeah, Timothy Gallaudet. I don't know his background. Let's look it up.
But I know, Lou was a lot of the same kind of stuff, asking for, talking about a lot of the evidence as far as what he knows and what we've talked about in previous episodes.
He's a retired rear admiral from the Navy.
Okay.
And then there was another guy. He was a NASA guy. What was his name? I don't have his name off the top of my head. But yeah, it'll all be part of what we're going to go over. So I've got a long tweet chain that has lots of clips and highlights and stuff that covers it.
Yeah, we might pick a few of those to go over, but and then we'll link it too so people can just click on the chain if they want to go down a rabbit hole and listen to all the different UAP stuff from this hearing.
So I don't know if you saw this. You probably did because you watched the Shellenberger Jesse Michaels. So Jesse Michaels,
that was just right after the hearing in the hearing room.
Yeah, so Jesse Michaels got into the hearing himself.
Yeah,
he was able to be there as a witness, and then he hung out with Michael Shellenberger afterwards, and he was with Michael Shellenberger as he pressed the button to tweet the Immaculate Constellation report that came from Shellenberger's source.
Nice.
Which is cool.
That's a flex for him, for sure.
That's, yeah.
So, yeah, we're actually going to go over, I'm going to read the Immaculate Constellation report because there's a lot of cool and really good information in here. And this is basically a lot of what they were talking about in the hearing.
Yeah. But why don't we start today off with our... Oh, I never even check to see if we had any messages.
We did not. Those are all mostly from me. But we did. We can read Amy's. You want to read Amy's text from last week's episode?
Oh, right. Sister text. It's not the one. This one. She says, "Good podcast today. Thanks for the shout out with the morning rant share and spirit science. Hope someone likes it. In today's episode, you were talking about the video of the footage of the early landscape changing, and you went into AI talks like usual." She spelled it
usual.
Anyway, it made me think of the movie Here. I went and saw this weekend with Tom Hanks. They did this exactly. It was one location shot, and they used AI to show the changes over centuries back to prehistoric times until present day, and how this location here changes over time and the evolution of the lives lived in one spot. It was done really well. Highly recommend. I have not even heard of it.
I've never even heard of it either. And Amy, I didn't know you were hanging out with Tom Hanks. She said she went and saw the movie with Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Well,
I want to meet him.
I need to meet my doppelganger.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, okay. So, that's cool.
Non-linear fashion covers the events of a single spot of land and its inhabitants spanning from the distant past to contemporary times.
This is I've seen a trailer. I didn't know what movie it was for, but it's him and the same actress from Forrest Gump that played the girl from Forrest Gump.
Robin Wright, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There it is, right there.
Yep.
Let's watch the trailer real quick.
All right, yeah, let's do that. Because it looked like it was. I thought it was like a Forrest Gump like prequel or something like that when I first saw the trailer or whatever snippet I saw.
All right, here we go.
Hey, Dad. I'd like you to meet Margaret.
Nice to meet you, Margaret.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Young.
Time sure does fly, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Take a straight and stronger course to the corner of your life. Make the White Queen run so fast. She hasn't got time.
Are we back in? Oh, yeah, we are. Dinosaurs. Oh, that freaking asteroid hitting and wiping them out.
Right here is where we want to be.
You know, if you like, you could spend the rest of the night here.
I could spend the rest of my life here.
This was our home. We lived here.
It does look good.
That does look cool. That's a really creative idea for a movie.
Yeah. Thanks for that recommendation, Amy. And now we'll take you up on watching the kids so we can go on a little date night and go watch that movie.
Nice. I'll wait for it to fall off a truck on the information highways.
Yeah.
But
I like the movie theater popcorn. Nothing's better.
Well, popcorn you make yourself can be a lot better.
You could, but it's not the same, dude. Spending $14 on popcorn is way better.
All right, let's do her weekly Bashar.
Cool.
Happens right after a human passes to afterlife.
They experience a potential of a variety of things. Many of them, not all of them, many of them experience the actual interdimensional shift, which you interpret as a tunnel of light. Not everyone experiences that. Some people just wake up. Oh, here I am.
And where they are, I mean, where
They are here,
wake up.
but in a different dimension, in a different frequency domain, in what you call the spirit realm. But they are
And,
here.
Is that temporary? That realm? I mean, their
Now,
presence
please
in
understand, you're asking questions from a linear perspective. So from a linear perspective, yes, it can be temporary. In actuality, everything exists at the same time. So you are always physical and you are always in spirit. So it just depends on how you want to look at this idea. If you want to look at it from an experiential point of view, a linear point of view, then yes, you die, you go into spirit, you can decide to be reborn, you can have different adventures in non-physical reality, you can be born in a different civilization, you can be born at a time before the last life, after the last life, anything you want, because time there is very fluid, very malleable. It's not what it is in physical reality. Nevertheless, from the actual mechanism's point of view, all of those experiences are happening all at once. You're just shifting your consciousness around to see things from a different point of view to create different experiences. But all those experiences exist at the same time. Many people will experience the idea of meeting, bless you, loved one on the other side when they arrive. You understand?
Yep.
Many people will experience what is typically called the life review, which means they look at the experience of the physical life they just had, and they experience the consequences of every choice and every action from the point of view of every single being that those choices and actions affected, as if they are those beings. Because there is no barrier anymore to the idea that you are all one. So suddenly you're no longer compartmentalized as yourself in the same way, even though you still have your identity. You start to experience things as if you are all the other people that you've had experiences with. But it's a learning lesson. It's an opportunity to experience the idea of how to balance that energy out within yourself, learn from it, and grow. So those are the typical things that are experienced by many people on your planet when they enter the idea called the afterlife. There are other things that happen, meeting certain kinds of celestial beings, understanding things you didn't understand in life, being able to communicate in dreams with people who are still alive, all these different kinds of things can occur.
That's cool.
But again, it's just a matter of the different choices that you make.
What happened?
Yeah, I like that idea, and I like the. And it kind of ties back with another Bashar episode that but Bashar, video that we've listened to. Obviously, it's the same person, so it's going to tie back. But this idea that you are everyone. Your experience of everybody that you meet is a reflection of you.
Yeah, right.
I think that was the one from last week.
That was the one from last week.
Everybody is a reflection of you. So in this afterlife life review state where you're going through and you're going through all your choices, good, bad, and you're seeing it from the other point of view, it's because the actual point of view, the reflection is you. You are the reflection, right? So like the other person may have had a whole different experience of what just happened, but what was experienced was you being reflected back at you. So that kind of gives me I don't know, it's just an interesting thought, right? That you are all one, like the idea of like everybody being one in the sense of in spirit, right? Like in spirit we are, or I guess if you were to prescribe or identify with the idea that God is, we are all God kind of idea, Right. You can reach back to that, and like the reflections are your interpretation or what happens, what somebody says to you, what you're experiencing, like me looking at you, what you're saying to me is actually a reflection of my idea of what our interaction is. And your idea of what our interaction is completely different, or at least different enough to be, to separate us, right, as different beings. Yeah. In this physical.
I mean, right. It makes me think of like what is a highly reported and classic experience when you partake in fungal medicine is that sort of the connectedness, the feeling of oneness.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's interesting. Like the idea of like having a life review but you're having it from the perspective of the people it affected, I think is a cool one. I like the idea of visiting like the living in their dreams. Mm-hmm. That sounds cool. That makes me think of, did you ever watch, what is it called? Sandman.
Like the old school?
No, it's a show on HBO. It's based on a graphic novel by Neil. Oh, I feel like a jerk for not knowing his name, but Neil something. It's a really well done adaptation of the graphic novel, in my opinion, anyway. Well, I didn't read the graphic novel, so I guess I can't really say that. All I can say is I enjoyed the show. But you follow this essentially this god, one of like the 7 siblings that like make up the primordial, like universal powers, and he's sleep. He's the god of sleep. His name's Morpheus. And he gets captured by this human magician and is kept confined for 100 years, and the world goes crazy. But anyway, he does this thing where like he can enter people's dreams, obviously being the god of sleep.
Yeah.
It's in fact how he like escapes his confinement.
Neil Gaiman,
yeah. Anyway,
interesting.
I highly recommend it.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Yeah.
But that also makes me think of that. Remember the video we did a couple weeks back about that company that's like trying to develop technology to get people to communicate in lucid dreams.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to open a whole Pandora's box of what the capabilities of that, of being able to communicate and what that might mean, right? Imagine like just having like a
What's funny about it to me is that like it seems to me that if like, all right, so if you have like a very materialistic worldview, then like this is cool technology, like enabling communication during lucid dreaming. But if you don't have a very materialistic worldview, then it seems like you're reinventing the technology that you're already in. True. Like, why do you need to use physical technology to connect two people in a dream state? They can just already connect. Probably.
Well, I mean, the people with the non-material worldview probably wouldn't use it, right? They probably would go and try to find a way to do it without it. But for the layman, for the person who's trying to dip their toes.
Yeah, but why use like a computer technology to do something that it seems like the dreamscape is already built to do? Yeah,
I mean, you know, the only argument I could say for it would be that people dipping their toes, right? Like getting people to have a less materialistic view by showing them the capabilities of what is possible, right?
But it seems like you kind of already have to be able to lucid dream in order to use it in the first place. So
yeah, so you might already have that tendency of being less materialistic in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a good point.
We had a video sent to us by a buddy of mine.
Oh yeah, let's play this one.
We shall call him Surf Boogie. Yeah, it's a cool little overview of like the mysteries of the pyramids. I don't necessarily. Yeah. Anyway, we should just watch it. It's pretty good.
Unfiltered scientific proof for what the pyramids were really built for. This is what a real Egyptian tomb looks like, and this is the biggest tomb in the world, the Great Pyramid of Giza. The closer you look, the more you realize this pyramid was definitely not made for burying the dead, because the materials they used to build it are exactly what we'd use today to create an electric current. Giza used to be covered with bright white casing stones that were virtually airtight, made out of polished limestone brought from Tura, a quarry 500 miles away. Oh, they just wanted the pyramids to look all nice and white and cute, right? So much that they were willing to drag stones the length of Florida away to do so, for the aesthetic. This special limestone from Tura happens to have less magnesium in it than regular limestone, making it an ideal insulator of electricity, as well as perfect for reflecting sunlight to keep the inside cool. The interior chambers of the pyramid were built with rose granite containing 85% quartz, which is piezoelectric, meaning it produces a small electric charge when moved or squeezed, the same quartz that's used to power a watch battery or a barbecue lighter. Granite also ionizes the air inside the chambers, which further increases the conductivity of electricity. On top of being sourced from Oswald, another quarry hundreds of miles away, the granite slabs inside Giza have these weird structural designs to them that don't exactly look good and are just incredibly difficult to make. Why on earth would you build a roof like this that just makes the job 10 times harder, using 80-ton stone blocks from hundreds of miles away that you can't even see from inside the chamber when it's done? Historians will tell you they were relieving chambers, meant to keep the room from collapsing from the great weight of the pyramid overhead, even though the chambers below had no such relief. On the other hand, if you were somehow able to apply pressure to these chambers, you'd get an electric charge from the quartz. A lot of it. But electricity can't just exist if we want to utilize it for energy. It needs to get directed through something in order for us to make use of it, an electric current. Copper is often used in wires to do just that. And take a wild guess what a remote camera revealed in the pyramid's narrow shafts just a few years back. 2 copper handles embedded into the stone at the end of the shaft, the only metal to have ever been confirmed in Giza, as well as a set of what appear to be instructions that looks like a wiring diagram painted on the side of the shaft, to which modern Egyptologists archaeologists claim these handles were used with ropes to pull jars up the shaft. They're just getting desperate at this point. These shafts really have no confirmed purpose. They're commonly referred to as air vents, but some of them don't even lead to the outside. In 2013, former Egyptian Antiquities Minister Zahi Hawass was accused of theft of Egyptian artifacts from the pyramid. In the list of items rumored to have been stolen, there was one that stood out from the rest. Long copper wires. A strange artifact by any means, and just what you'd need to complete an electric current. So were the pyramids built as giant batteries? I mean, we have all the pieces in place, but how exactly would this battery even work? Aerospace engineer Chris Dunn popularized the Giza power plant theory by kind of proving it with actual science, hard numbers, and a scale model. From the top, this is what the inside of Giza looks like: a top or king's chamber with a lower queen's chamber underneath it, a large slanted shaft, the grand gallery, connecting both chambers, and a bottom subterranean chamber with a bunch of long narrow shafts leading into each. According to Dunn, the pyramid is what's called a coupled oscillator, a device that's connected to a larger vibrating body in such a way that energy can be transferred between them, converting vibrational energy, the natural resonance of the earth, into microwave energy. Now the earth, it vibrates, producing frequencies in the form of natural underground seismic activity, the Schumann resonances in Earth's electromagnetic fields, as well as the movement of water in key locations just below Earth's surface, which also creates vibrational frequencies. The entire process starts in the subterranean chamber, which was built directly above underground aquifers with powerful flowing water right under the pyramids. A convenient location for the perfect coincidence theory. It's said that the flowing water and possibly even seismic activity of the Earth would create vibrational waves that resonate throughout the pyramid. Vibrational waves that would be maximized at the center of mass of any object, and Giza just so happens to sit at the center of landmass of the world. Coincidence. Now the real kicker was when traces of zinc and hydrochloric acid were found in the shafts leading into the Queen's Chamber. Dunn suggests that some ancient form of these two chemicals were poured down the shafts and mixed together in the chamber, which would trigger a chemical reaction, one that releases hydrogen gas, a proven process using the exact trace chemicals that were found in the shafts. The gas would travel from the Queen's Chamber through the Grand Gallery and up into the King's Chamber, while the pressure of the gas compresses the granite quartz and creates piezoelectricity, another proven process. The vibrations from below would trigger resonators in the Grand Gallery, which it was believed that 27 acoustic devices were placed in the empty slots that can be found here. The compressed quartz would create the spark for the vibrations to energize the hydrogen atoms into a microwave energy beam, which would reach the King's Chamber through this 4.8 times 8.4 inch watertight shaft cut into the granite. Conveniently, the perfect size for the hydrogen microwave wavelength at 21 centimeters, and the exact dimensions of what we'd call a waveguide today, a structure that guides the transmission of energy waves in one direction. And let me remind you, granite is harder than steel. Cutting a shaft like this is damn near impossible with known ancient technology, and definitely not something they do for fun. These microwaves would further resonate in the King's Chamber, which was tuned to a very specific frequency using those layers of stones in the roof. Remember those incredibly difficult stones above the chamber? That's how they tuned the pyramid's frequency. The sarcophagus in this room is expected to have been some source of high voltage, like the Baghdad battery, to further ionize the hydrogen and make that room superconductive. Gold-capped pips, as we believe the pyramids to have had, would also make the perfect conductor to attract the electricity and send it up into the atmosphere. Sounds like it's time for me to take my meds. A super pseudoscientific theory, and highly theoretical at that, until you realize in 2018, studies proved that the pyramids can focus electromagnetic energy in their internal chambers and also directly beneath them. That's real, quantifiable, scientific evidence that supports this theory. Many archaeologists also report electromagnetic readings inside of the pyramids and directly above them. So the pyramid's exterior was made with an insulator, the interior with conductors, and the chambers with material that produces electricity. Are these all just coincidences? And even if we did have electricity generated in the pyramids, how would this energy even be distributed for everyone to use? Our boy Tesla may have known the answer and was silenced from revealing it to the world. Let's see if it's up. The raw.
So yeah, that's like a... It's a good synopsis of high-speed crash course on Christopher Dunn's theory. Yeah, and there is, there's a recent thing that I saw about the Chinese. I think we talked about it in one of our things, but the Chinese scientists detected the plasma above Giza, above the pyramids. Like they detected these like plasma bubbles that are above the pyramids of Giza, which could be some sort of remnant from when they were active. I don't know that I have seen that.
Their low altitude, long range ionospheric radar detected plasma bubbles over the Egyptian pyramids The bubbles were the largest ever recorded, spanning from North Africa to the central Pacific coast. These plasma bubbles are also known as equatorial plasma bubbles. Says there are natural space weather phenomena that can interfere with GPS and satellite communications.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, I think this theory is very, feasible, and I mean, obviously we need more data, and we need Bashar and his group of people to come down here with their holographic recordings and show us what happened. That's what we need, you know what I mean? Like, we won't know. I love thinking about these things, but
I mean, in some ways I want someone to come down and give us all that information, and in some ways I just want us to like defeat the forces that are trying to keep it all secret, and then like just see how fast we figure it all out,
Yeah, like just release the information and let the scientists do the thing that the scientists do.
Right.
Let them have all the data. Let them get all of the data points that are being hidden, and just give them all of it. Let them do their thing.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about it on our podcast, and then we'll let all you know. Bashar, later on, there might be more mysteries from deep past stuff that we may need to know, because from hundreds of thousands of years ago, what the Earth might have looked like, what civilizations might have looked like, that would be very interesting. And I'll take your holographic, recording.
Maybe they can explain to us that the reptilian race is actually the intelligent species that evolved during the time of the dinosaurs, and from their perspective, we're on their planet.
And maybe they're the crypto-terrestrials, right? They're the crypto-terrestrials we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to go back, though, because on the Bashar video that we listened to a little bit, because that topic that Bashar talked about is also interesting, because, and I talked to you about it just before we started recording, but I was listening to Ross Coulthard's interview with Dr. Michael Masters, and his whole ideas of the crypto-terrestrials and the extratemporal beings.
That's right. He's a big fan of the sort of time travel theory.
But he's a big proponent of the theory that the majority of the beings that we're seeing are future humans.
Right.
Of some sort, and that links back to Bashar's thing of beings being able to like once you die, like you can relive a life in the future or the past. Like time happens all at once. In their view, time is happening all at once, and if you are able to in some way be in your spiritual form and your physical form at the same time, and you're able to have those downloads of information from your spiritual form and relay that information to your physical form, whether it be your future physical form, your present, our quote unquote present day physical form. And if all those things are happening at once, right, and you're living all these different lives, you can just jump back and forth and download and upload these information all the time. And Dr. Michael Masters is an experiencer. He's a doctor. He's a biological anthropologist, and a lot of his work is talking about how the aliens, the quote unquote aliens, are, and how they're humanoid. It's always humanoids. And that leads him to believe that they are some sort of ancestor or future versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? And
it's
if
not
that's
just
the
that
case,
they're humanoid, it's that
they have the characteristics
through his study
from our evolution.
Right.
They have the characteristics of human evolution, not just humanoid.
Right. So what he talks about is there's this feature in evolution that you can notice if you're doing anthropology, where a species' children are sort of an indicator of what the next evolution of that species will look like. So like if you look at say like chimpanzees and their infants, they look a lot more human than a full-grown chimp. So like it kind of points towards where we're at. And if you look at human babies, they look bald, big heads, big eyes. Like you can see we're moving towards that direction.
That's the direction, yeah.
And if you keep going, essentially what we're looking at is like an expansion of the brain cavity, and probably a reduction of like the mouth, the nose, and an increase in the eyes too. Right.
He made a comparison of what they're seeing scientifically. In a lot of cases, is we're seeing a higher rate of astigmatism because humans have, having the brain right above the eyes. They're linking that to a lot of these neurological and visual impairments that we're having, and that might be the next evolutionary thing.
Interesting.
Not that we are seeing. Not that we don't see anymore, or that we go blind, but that our vision might change enough to where our perception of what we're seeing might change.
Right.
Because you go far enough in the future where everybody has an astigmatism and everybody has some sort of like visual impairment as we see it now. That impairment might be a feature for that next generation, right? It might allow for the information to be categorized in the brain differently in the future. It's just a thought, that might be one way that our evolution is happening, through these. And he puts a lot of importance on the fact that we're upright standing. None of these things that we're experiencing now would have happened if we were, and we're the only mammal on the entire planet that is upright walking, other than chimps who can do it for short times.
There's a couple other ape species that
they do it for short periods of time, but they don't usually stand on two legs for long periods of time.
They're not exclusively bipedal.
Right. And he talks about, and I want to do a full, and I'm going to go over a lot more, and I'm going to research a lot more of Michael Master's work, and I want to read one of his. He has 2 books.
My main
that I'm going to read.
Issue that I haven't seen
on him, but
my main thing that I haven't seen him address, that my main objection, I would ask him if I was interviewing him, is wouldn't bipedalism be almost okay? So within reason, right? So like, wouldn't bipedalism, at least for land-based species, be almost a prerequisite for intelligence and technology?
No, he
that
talks
could
about that.
allow you to travel. So to a certain degree, like as long as whatever species is visiting, let's say it is like some other thing from another planet, like as long as they evolved on the land, they would have had to evolve bipedalism in order to free up their hands in order to manipulate the environment.
Well, not only that too, he does address that though, especially in this interview. I'll link it for Dean to listen to, but also for everybody else. We'll link it in the thing. But I want to do a whole thing on his because he's very fascinating. He's got 2 books that I want to listen to, and I'll do a whole episode on him. But
he's also a UFO experiencer.
He's also a UFO experiencer. But what I was going to say is he does link the bipedalism to the expansion of intelligence,
right?
Because you think of a 4-legged person or a 4-legged creature, and they're on all fours, and their head is here, But when you go bipedal, your head has to come down to, and it allows the cranium, the cranium to, the cranial cavity to change, to morph, and it allows for more space for the brain to grow.
Right.
So that being part of
because your entire skeletal structure is keeping the weight.
Exactly.
Whereas if you're a quadruped, your head is hanging out in front of you, and you have to have a really strong neck to hold that head up.
So your neck muscles and your shoulder muscles are developed.
So if you keep growing a bigger and bigger and bigger head, it comes at the expense of being able to be needing to support it.
Right, and he also links it to, like, we wouldn't be able to be here with all the information and sitting in at a keyboard and typing and using all these things without ever having been, like, it's not, like, you, for intelligence itself, for our type of intelligence, for the non-human intelligence even, the idea of like it all being bipedal humanoid like creatures is also is like a distinguishing feature of intelligence.
But that's also why I said like only if you assume evolution on land, right? Because if a big chunk
or in gravity too,
a big chunk of the worlds out there that are hospitable to life are like ocean or water planets, like there's no reason, like the shapes you could take underwater are totally different. Like look at octopi and like give them another billion years of evolution and they may be building rockets and exploring the solar system, right?
Yeah, I heard a quote. I can't remember who it was. I'll have to look it up and I'll put it in there. But
who knows like what their technology or what their body form will be. Like it doesn't need to be bipedal because they're not like they live in a fluid environment that they don't need to support themselves in the same way.
Right. Now the quote that I was thinking of is if dinosaurs invented rockets, they would still be here today or something like that.
Right. Yeah, because they would have been able to get off planet like that. That's like,
but they were
Elon
also bipedal.
Musk's, like we need to become a multiplanetary species. It's a matter of survival.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we're all over. Let's take our first break. This is Stevie Nader. This is called "Feel Everything."
This time that you've been gone, I've been fine. Yeah, I've been fine since you walked on to find the light. I've been good, yeah, I've been fine. I contemplated the time it's taken to be persuaded to make these statements. I made my mind up since you've been tied up that I'll be good, yeah, I'll be fine. 'Cause your rule is my high. 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 Your rule.
Welcome back.
All right.
Hope you felt everything in that song because it was hella good. That's one of my favorite songs of his.
I have to re-listen to that one. I like the ending in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I guess that's
I love
a
those chants.
Fiona Apple sample.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
All right. So,
Shall we?
do we want to play some of these clips, or do you want to just dive right into some of this Immaculate Constellation report?
Let's start with some of the clips and
Okay.
get the basics going here.
Real quick, I do want to go through this crop circles.
Oh yeah,
thing.
this is a tweet I found this week.
Yeah.
From @JasonWild108 on Twitter. Says there are 3,364 unique crop circles, nearly every one reported since 1990. The full image is massive, making it hard to zoom in on each design individually, but included is a close-up of a random section for a better look.
Yeah.
This whole thing is really cool.
And immediately, what I don't know what they're called, but when you have those images that form a three-dimensional picture, if you like cross your eyes and like focus
like
on
the Magic Eye books.
Yeah. And I tried to do that, but I didn't see anything in this one. But I imagine maybe if you arrange them in a certain way, they could.
Maybe there's some sort of key in them that tells you how to arrange them.
Yeah, maybe. But
Either way,
that was
it's really cool.
That was my initial premise. Like, I think it's cool. And then if you go to the zoomed in one, you see a lot of the actual.
Well, if you open the image in a new tab, you can click to
you
zoom.
can actually zoom in on them.
Yeah. Or
So
if
you
you
can do
download
yourself.
the image.
So there's just so many, and these are all. I mean, a lot of these are like some of these are like scientific principles, right? Like geometrical patterns, sure, but they're also like have like scientific meanings behind some of these formations.
Yeah. What's that? The flower of life over there?
Mm-hmm. We got the pentagram and the Star of David, and you got all these different
Some cool
geometrical
stuff.
patterns. I mean, and just to see them all in one place, in like one, and that looks like a Rubik's Cube. You see that one just up and left of your cursor
This
there?
here?
It's a Rubik's Cube.
That's cool. And there's like a cube.
There's a cube. That's like a three-dimensional cube. That's a cube. That's like a tesseract.
Mm.
It almost looks like a tesseract, like a four-dimensional cube.
This one's like a triangle made out of the negative space, cut out of 3 Pac-Man circles.
Oh, that's cool looking. That one just up and left of that one, you were looking. It looks like the ear. Just left, right there, to the right. Up
Oh, yeah.
looks like an ear.
Wow, that's interesting.
And then up and right of that is an alien face.
Yep, that's
Or
a gray.
classic gray.
Some cool stuff in here.
Yeah, so we'll link these and show these in the photos and the
I guess
links.
that this has a desktop background.
Yeah, no kidding.
Save it to my background folder.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be putting that in a slide for my backgrounds as well.
Cool. All right. So there is a huge tweet thread that by High Peaks 77 UAP News on Twitter that covers the whole congressional hearing. And yeah, let's start going through some of this. So tweet number 1. This thread will gather clips from the joint subcommittee hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP UFOs, taking place today, November 13th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Witnesses are Lue Elizondo, Tim Gallaudet, Michael Shellenberger, and Mike Gold. That's the other guy. That's the NASA guy.
Okay.
Hearing can be watched at this link, which I will also be posting today for you guys if you want to watch the whole thing. Number 3, a preview of what to expect from testimony by former Pentagon UFO director Lue Elizondo and Admiral Gallaudet's opening statements. Let's just get into the real stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that was the That was one of the
he starts, so he
videos.
he basically just introduces everyone, Shellenberger, official Immaculate Constellation report.
Yeah, this is Nancy Mace talking about the 12-page Pentagon document, Immaculate Constellation.
And we will hear testimony today concerning recent revelations about a purportedly secret UAP program whose existence and findings may have been improperly withheld from Congress. But before we get to the witnesses, we're going to have a few more opening statements from our colleagues. And one thing I wanted to add at the end of my closing statement is there is a document that will be entered into the congressional record today. Mr. Tim Burchett from Tennessee has this document, and we just distributed it to every member up here on the dais of this document. But this is going to be the original document from the Pentagon about Immaculate Constellation that Michael Shellenberger delivered to Congress today. So thank you, Mr. Shellenberger, for this information. We are all reading it in real time now, and Mr. Burchett will enter it into the record. But 12 pages about this unacknowledged special access program that your government says does not exist. And we
Boom. Yeah, so we're gonna read that for you today too.
Heck
but
yeah.
Let's keep going. Yeah.
Rep. Moskowitz, members were told to not hold the UAP hearing. This is interesting.
We're met with people not wanting us to have hearings. We're met with people not wanting us to ask you questions. In fact, many of us were told not to ask some of you certain questions on certain topics. We're met with...
That's interesting. So
that's
some
an
of the
interesting atmosphere as the
yeah.
background of this is that Congress people are approached being like, yo, don't do this. Or
Don't ask this
them
question.
these
Yeah.
questions, right.
Interesting. And I do know, I think it might have been him. I know there was another congressperson that is an active Air Force person. And when I was listening to the entire thing, I was listening to his questions, and he was being very careful about the questions he was asking because he is an active Air Force airman and is also a part of Congress. So he was like probably approached by these same types of people saying, hey, don't ask this, don't do this, don't say that.
Interesting. All right. Number 8, Representative Mace's opening statement.
Good morning and welcome to today's historic hearing, which I'm co-chairing with Mr. Grothman, whose subcommittee held an important hearing on this topic last year. I want to thank my colleagues on the Oversight Committee, including Mr. Burchett, Mr. Burleson, Ms. Luna, Mr. Moskowitz, Mr. Garcia, for their relentless drive to get answers on UAPs. They've been steadfast in demanding transparency on the sightings reported by military pilots and armed forces. Their commitment to digging for the truth is exactly what this country needs to cut through the secrecy surrounding this issue. And many high-ranking individuals in the military and intelligence communities believe UAPs demand greater attention, and thus the purpose for this hearing today. Former National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster said on Bill Maher's program that, quote, there are phenomena that have been witnessed by multiple people that are just inexplicable by the science available to us. Army Colonel Carl Nell, a member of the federal government UAP task force, said at a conference this past May that non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing, and there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that. But UAPs remain a controversial topic. I'm not going to name names, but there are certain individuals who didn't want this hearing to happen because they feared what might be disclosed. But we stood firm. No amount of outside pressure would ever keep me from pursuing a subject to ground, come hell or high water. On that score, I want to thank our witnesses for being here. We have before us a panel of individuals accomplished in the military, in civilian government, in science, and in journalism. Some of the testimony you will hear them deliver today does not reflect well on influential individuals and agencies within the U.S. federal government and perhaps some of our contractors. It's never easy to present such information publicly. So I appreciate our witnesses voluntarily agreeing to being here today. This hearing is intended to help Congress and the American people to learn the extent of the programs and activities our government has engaged in with respect to UAPs and what knowledge it has yielded. This includes, of course, any knowledge of extraterrestrial life or technology of non-human origin. If government-funded research on UAPs has not yielded any useful knowledge, we also need to know those facts. Taxpayers deserve to know how much has it been invested, how much has been spent. They shouldn't be kept in the dark to spare the Pentagon a little bit of embarrassment. The reality is, despite their enormous taxpayer-funded budgets, the transparency of the Defense Department and the intelligence community have long been abysmal. The Pentagon has failed 6 consecutive audits. In fact, it's never actually passed one. Adding to this is a runaway overclassification of documents and materials, a reluctance to declassify materials when appropriate, and at times an outright refusal to share critical information with Congress. In short, it's not a track record that instills trust. So Congress has tried in recent years to lift the veil and find out if information about UAPs is being withheld, not only from the American public, but also from their elected representatives in Congress. Part of the transparency effort was legislation created in the Pentagon, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, but the new office is struggling to get its footing. A recent statutorily required report from AARO intended to illuminate the government's historic assessment of UAPs, was heavily criticized by those seeking UAP transparency. The report has stoked suspicions AARO is unable, or perhaps unwilling, to bring forward the truth about the government's activities concerning UAPs. I'm disturbed that AARO itself lacks transparency. Even its budget is kept from the public. So if there is no there, then why are we spending money on it, and by how much? Why the secrecy if it's really no big deal and there's nothing there? Why hide it from the American people? Because I'm not a mathematician, but I can tell you that doesn't add up. I expect some of our witnesses to share their views on that AARO report. We will also hear from the witnesses today allegations of UAP-related misinformation and disinformation by government officials, of which they are personally aware and directly experienced. And we will hear testimony today concerning recent revelations about a purportedly secret UAP program whose existence and findings may have been improperly withheld from Congress. But before we get to the witnesses, we're going to have a few more opening statements from...
Cool.
Yeah.
Dude, that's such a good point of, like, if there's no there, then why all this funding allocated?
Well, and why
all
the secrecy?
the secrecy?
Yeah, why the secrecy? And this AARO that this is the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. What's the resolution here? Where's the resolution?
Well, meaning that they're supposed to investigate UAP encounters and resolve them as to whether they are, like, what they are. But yeah, not necessarily resolution in the sense of like a final solution to the UAP.
No, but a resolution to at least the questions to, like, why are they being so secretive? Why, at least giving us some sort of sense of the reasons for why they are so secretive.
Right.
At least give us hey, this is highly classified because of blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But what I wanted to touch on, too, is, like, I thought it was interesting that she, even in the opening statements, admitted that she and others had, like we heard before, that they have been approached and people were. She's like, we won't name names. But why name the names? Why are we not naming these names?
Shame these people that are trying to keep information from the public.
If you're not naming a specific name, at least name the name of the program or the like whatever whatever part of the government.
What department do they come from? What company do they come from? What are they a lobbyist for someone? Like,
exactly.
Give us something. Yeah.
Like, why are you not naming
who
names?
Are these forces trying to keep people
out
of the know?
I just, like, that's one thing that, like, you see a lot of these comments and a lot of these videos too. Like, you can just click on some of these comments and you see a lot of these people are like, and it's true, nothing was gained, nothing learned type of stuff. Obviously, we do have this report, which is great, and it's, at least we have this. But as far as the congressional hearing itself, nothing new was gained from it.
Yeah. So I just want to do Lue Elizondo's opening statement, and then that will be time to take a break. And then I really just want to dive into that document.
Yeah, we'll do that after this.
There's really just part of his opening statement here that I just think I love how plainly he puts stuff.
Well, and I think he does it with enough affectation in what he's saying that it gives you a lot of, like, because we've covered a lot of Lue obviously in our previous episodes, but I think the affectation he puts on a lot of the words here, and like the importance he puts on a lot of the things he's saying is worthwhile.
Right. So here is Lue Elizondo.
I will now recognize Mr. Elizondo for his opening statement.
Greetings, Chairwoman Mace, Chairman Grothman, Ranking Members Connolly and Garcia, and members of the committee. It is my honor and privilege to testify before you on the issue of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, formerly known as UFOs. On behalf of our brave men and women in uniform and across the intelligence community, as well as my fellow Americans who have awaited this day, thank you for your leadership on this important matter. Let me be clear. UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries. I believe we are in the midst of a multi-decade secretive arms race, one funded by misallocated taxpayer dollars and hidden from our elected representatives and oversight bodies. For many years, I was entrusted with protecting some of our nation's most sensitive programs. In my last position, I managed a special access program on behalf of the White House and the National Security Council. As such, I appreciate the need to protect certain sensitive intelligence and military information. I consider my oath to protect secrets as sacred, and I will always put the safety of the American people first. With that said, I also understand the consequences of excessive secrecy and stovepiping. Nowhere was this more apparent than in the aftermath of 9/11, which many of us remember all too well. I believe that America's greatness depends on three elements. A watchful Congress, B, a responsive executive branch, and C, an informed public. Over the last decade and a half, I learned that certain UAP programs were and are operating without any of these elements. Although much of my government work on the UAP subject still remains classified, excessive secrecy has led to grave misdeeds against loyal civil servants, military personnel, and the public, all to hide the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos. A small cadre within our own government involved in the UAP topic has created a culture of suppression and intimidation that I've personally been victim to, along with many of my former colleagues. This includes unwarranted criminal investigations, harassment, and efforts to destroy one's credibility. Most Americans would be shocked to learn that the Pentagon's very own Public Affairs Office openly employs a professional psychological operations officer as the singular point of contact for any UAP-related inquiries from citizens and the media. This is unacceptable. Many of my former colleagues and I have provided classified testimony to both the Department of Defense and the Intelligence Community Inspector General, and many of us have subsequently been targeted by this cabal with threats to our careers, our security clearances, and even our lives. This is not hyperbole, but a genuine fact, and this is wrong. To fix these problems, I propose three principal actions. First, Congress and the President should create a single point of contact responsible for a whole-of-government approach to the UAP issue. Currently, the White House, CIA, NASA, the Pentagon, Department of Energy, and others play a role, but no one seems to be in charge, leading to unchecked power and corruption. Second, we need a national UAP strategy that will promote transparency and help restore the American public's trust at a time when the public's trust is at an all-time low. This strategy should include a whole-of-government approach, including the academic and scientific communities, the private sector, and our international partners and allies. Third, Congress should create a protected environment so whistleblowers desperate to do the right thing, can come forward without fear. As it currently stands, these whistleblowers suffer because of stigma, a code of silence, and concerns about retaliation. These whistleblowers should be encouraged to come forward in ways that protect them against any forms of retaliation. Policies and procedures should ensure that protection, and for those who refuse to cooperate, it is up to the members of this committee and the other lawmakers to wield their subpoena power against hostile witnesses and prevent additional government funding to those UAP efforts that remain hidden from congressional oversight. In closing, we as Americans have never been afraid of a challenge. In fact, we thrive on them, whether it's eradicating polio or going to the moon. We don't run from a challenge, we take it head on. To the incoming administration and Congress, I say to you, we need immediate public transparency. And this hearing is an important step on that journey. If we approach the UAP topic in the same way as we, as Americans, have met other challenges, we can restore our faith in our government institutions. Together, we can usher in a new era of accountable government and scientific discovery. I believe that we as Americans can handle the truth. And I also believe the world deserves the truth. Thank you, esteemed members of Congress, for your time today. It is profoundly appreciated by many.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I say that the affectation of his thing is like he clearly is putting a lot of importance on the words he's saying, and like he's wording it in such a way to like impress upon people like the importance of it, whether you might think it's false or like he's doing that to like skew your, because humans are emotional beings.
He's trying to communicate in a simple and effective, like emotional, logical, but using proper
emotion of it.
Proper emotion in the right points to get his point across. The affect,
and that's what I was.
About.
The affect I was talking about is exactly that. Like he's trying to portray the emotion alongside the facts.
And I think he's right. I think we can handle the truth, and I think we deserve the truth. It's just so frustrating when you get into this topic. And a lot of people, I've been, I think 2 or 3 podcasts or like things I've listened to on the UFO topic recently have mentioned this like UFO burnout phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I think I've experienced it before. It's this like this thing that happens when you start getting deep into the topic and you start going into it and you're looking at stuff and then you just get freaking frustrated because it's all a shell game. Yeah. It's all this person said this, that person said this. Oh, this grainy video that like, for all you know, it could be a fake. I mean, maybe it's not, but maybe it is. Right. And like, it's just all this like hall of mirrors. Yeah. And so like when you get into it, it can really like defeat your mentality, like your optimism, and it can make you like sick of the topic to where you need to take a step back.
And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that it's so stigmatized that private individuals are not going to stake their entire reputation or livelihood on trying to research these things. Some do. We know that. Some do. But the majority of science is done in the public through being funded by the government.
Right.
So a lot of those types of people are being affected by the fact that their funding comes from the government.
When the scientific purse strings won't open the purse to fund your project because it has something to do with UFOs or is even tangentially related to it.
So what do you get? You get people who dance around the facts and they dance around the real information.
Right.
Being disseminated. All they're doing is giving the people like you and me who are going to go and dive deep into a topic like this just enough to get hooked, but not enough to sustain the interest.
It's possible to dive deep enough into the topic that you can convince yourself. That is 100%. Absolutely possible, and that's where I feel that I am, right? Like,
and then you could go so far that you circle back to not believing anymore.
Right. What's not really possible in the topic is to go so deep into it that you have undeniable, irreconcilable, just absolute 100% proof that you can just come out to the public and convince the world.
It's not possible. At
Sure,
this point.
you can come up with arguments and testimony and whatnot that can convince a group of people, but like again, it's not hard proof. It's like if you present it to the Neil deGrasse Tysons of the world, they're gonna be like, "Where's the data?" Right? And
or if you post anything on X or any platform, you're going to what's going to emerge is the trolls and the people who are just gonna put you down so much that you're just done.
So between the skeptics and between the people who just will ridicule you, and between like the portion of the public who's like apathetic to this topic, they don't really care. They're just going.
They just want to hear the information. Yeah,
like there's a whole group of people who like aren't going to dive into it.
Right.
Because it's hard. It's a protection. For those of us who are into it and are digging in and see the evidence.
Yeah.
Like it takes this long process of like absorbing all these little bits from here, from there. A lot of it's philosophical. A lot of it's like scientific and like.
And what's the release valve for that, right?
Right.
So you can go and dive deep on any things, but what's the release valve? Other than starting a podcast with your brother,
right.
What's the release valve?
You're right. That's my release valve. I was getting so frustrated. Like I was so into all these topics and like.
I know.
Like. I'll hang out with a person and I'll be like, yo, what's going on?
And you want to bring something up,
you start
right?
small talking and then like
it turns into
it makes you like, I can't go into this. They're gonna think I'm crazy.
I know. And it's so true. And and that's one of the reasons, we started the podcast too. Like a big part of it was this UAP stuff. And that's why we, especially when they come out with a congressional hearing on this stuff, we're going to cover it. But it makes you also apprehensive.
It also kind of pisses me off because we're sitting here, we're doing these official proceedings, even with our elected representatives and
current elected representatives.
Sure. And we still can't freaking penetrate this crap, man. Like,
I know.
It is pretty maddening. Like that to like be going up to the national security state and the private contractors and the DOD and be like, please tell me the truth.
I want to know.
Like, it's really demeaning the way they treat the public on this topic.
Well, and it's such a telling thing too, because Congress is supposed to be the government's version of the public, right? It's supposed to be representatives of your district from your state that are going to this body that are going to go and have these conversations on your behalf, right? But what happens? Her opening statement tells you that the government, whatever that might be, the Pentagon, these non-elected officials who are lifetime government representatives,
trying to prevent them from even having this hearing, and then when they can't do that, they're trying to prevent them from asking certain questions and going into certain topics.
Yeah.
And then when they ask questions of the witnesses, our own elected officials get answers like, I can't tell you that unless we're in a skiff.
And because a lot of these elected officials are not security, they're not security clearanced enough to have
clearances
to be
go
going
into
to a skiff.
They even
cannot
can't get on answers.
So maybe one or two people of these committees can go into a skiff, and those people, the reason they're in a skiff is because they can be trusted not to tell the truth.
Right.
It's lunacy. It really is lunacy.
It really is.
Anyway, I'm gonna get heated. Let's take a break and let's come back and let's dive into this Immaculate Constellation report, because I think that will end our podcast perfectly.
All right. This is TJ McNulty, Kalo.
Well, it's 3:15 in each other's company. But we have our tendencies to be awake rather than sleeping. We stare into the land of imagination, transfixed by man's creation, and we're always too awake to be asleep, because it's just one of our loves, a foolish loves. Well, people say imagination is only for the young, but it's still one of our loves, a foolish loves. Well, you can say that's not much to be proud of, but we're gonna be more proud of our foolish love. Well, we all fall 13,000 feet just because we love the feeling of smiling. Well, call us weird, hell yeah we are. Our quick noises and fast lip poisons, we would all die for our aspirations. We are all one of our own creation. We are all one of each other's love, a foolish love. Simple minds is the most we could ever ask of. Our love, a simple love. Well, I am who I am because of my friends, and their simple love.
Welcome back to Duality Check, episode 48. We haven't named it yet, but you'll know the name once you click on this episode.
Immaculate Constellation.
Yeah, that's a great name. Yeah, we'll just do that.
It's a term in the zeitgeist right now that we should definitely tag it with, you know?
That's a great point.
So Michael Shellenberger's tweet, report on the U.S. government's secret UAP UFO program from a whistleblower and released today by Nancy Mace and discussed in today's congressional hearing. Full report.
So, the introduction. This document is the result of a multi-year internal investigation into the subjects of unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs, technologies of unknown origin, or TUOs, the non-human intelligence, or NHIs. This investigation was undertaken in response to urgent and credible threats to the public good and safety of the United States of America, and provided to Congress through the UAP whistleblower mechanisms established by the FY23 National Defense Authorization Act. So the
fiscal year 2023.
Yep. It's fiscal year 2023 National Intelligence Authorization Act. The data consulted during this investigation and summarized in this report originate from non-public data held within the executive branch of the United States government, or USG. Further on, the author obtained access to this information while pursuing their lawful duties as an employee of the Department of Defense. This public version of the author's report was reviewed and approved for public release by the Department of State, Bureau of Global and Public Affairs. The results of this investigation are deeply disturbing. Elements of the U.S. executive branch have conspired to prevent the U.S. legislative branch from exercising its lawful powers of governance with respect to the UAP, TUO, and NHI issues. The information provided by the author strongly suggests that the U.S. executive branch has been managing UAP and NHI issues without congressional knowledge, oversight, or authorization for some time, quite possibly decades. This criminal conspiracy keeps the elected government of the United States and its citizens ignorant to profound discoveries and dire threats originating from the existence of UAPs, NHIs, and their technologies. Unambiguous evidence demonstrating the reality of UAP, NHI, and TUO has been made available to Congress by multiple independent UAP whistleblowers. This document is but one item of evidence brought to Congress. Much more exists and hopefully will be made available in the public versions of the report. Information is organized into 7 categories of evidence, including an unacknowledged special access program, or USAP, imagery intelligence, or IMINT, human intelligence, or HUMINT, signals intelligence, or SIGINT. I'll say SIGINT. SIGINT. Yeah. USG, U.S. Government Bureaucratic Records, or USG, historical records, and other sensitive sources are all information in this report is derived from the access to non-public information. So Section 1, Unacknowledged Special Access Program, Immaculate Constellation. Immaculate Constellation is an unacknowledged special access program, or USAP, established following the public disclosure of the ATIP and OSAP programs by Lue Elizondo in 2017. Upon disclosure to Congress, it was determined that this USAP and its collateral information have been lawfully reported to Congress. Have not been lawfully reported to Congress. Immaculate Constellation's primary mission is collecting imagery intelligence on the unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs, and ARVs and RVs. These are reproductive vehicles and alien reproduction vehicles. And untasked U.S. military intelligence resources as part of a network of SAPs linked to non-human intelligence and UAP technologies. Immaculate Constellation acts as a nexus for collecting, analyzing, and disseminating intelligence on the activities, capabilities, and locations of anomalous aerospace threats that originate from foreign or unidentified sources. The intelligence within the Immaculate Constellation program primarily consists of the high-quality imagery intelligence, or IMINT, and collateral measurements and signatures intelligence, or MASINT, of UAPs and ARVs/RVs within Earth's atmosphere. The collection platforms involved are a blend of tasked and untasked capabilities in low Earth orbit. The upper atmosphere, military and civilian aviation at altitudes, and marine environments.
Maritime
environments. Immaculate Constellation pays particular attention to anomalous airspace platforms that have been developed through the study or acquisition of technologies of unknown origin by foreign nations or unknown entities. UAP, ARV, and RV signatures are and preferred operating areas are known to the program, enabling a degree of strategic awareness and warning. Finally, Immaculate Constellation shows that UAPs and ARVs are operating around the globe, often in close proximity to sensitive foreign assets and locations.
This is interesting because it says that their operating areas are known to the program. So it sounds like there's certain hotspots, like maybe they may have by using like all of these collection vectors.
That's a good word.
They are able to probably put together like a heat map of like where in the world you see these things, and by doing so, you can probably do things like identify bases. Like
Or
if there are
right?
hotspots or places on Earth that these things are constantly going to and from.
And some of those may be oceanside.
Right. Well, that's probably.
A lot of these.
I would imagine like ocean and like underground is probably the bulk of like where you would go to
On
have
land.
a base, because
you're not going to be
you're not
on,
going to put it on the
land.
surface.
Well, unless you look like us.
Right.
Unless you look like us, and there is that.
But they know
I've been hearing a lot
we
about,
have satellites, so like it could be identified if it was on the surface.
I can't remember who it was, just off the top of my head, because I've got a lot of other things going on in my head right now. But there was talks of a craft so large that it had landed or crashed or whatever that they had to build a building over it to protect it.
I heard about that.
Or to cover it up.
Where was it from?
It was obviously somebody in my algorithm.
I want to say it was like a Jesse Michaels interview.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least that's what I'm thinking now.
Yeah.
Okay. But either way, like that's interesting.
Okay, keep going.
So yeah, the category.
Yeah, go ahead.
The categorization of Immaculate Constellation as a parent USAP with various child SAPs under its umbrella indicates a high level of compartmentalization and secrecy. In effect, Immaculate Constellation serves as a central or parent USAP, that's unacknowledged special access program, that consolidates observations of UAPs and ARVs activities detected by tasked and untasked collection platforms. That's the word we're looking for there.
Yeah.
Sophisticated internal information security controls are a major part of the Immaculate Constellation program, which enforces compartmentalization by detecting, quarantining, and transferring UAP and RV imagery collections incidents before they are circulated within the military intelligence enterprise.
I see.
So these are within; these are further removed from those.
It seems like some of these child SAPs, what they're tasked with, like there seems to be some of these that are tasked with the job of when a sighting occurs within the government, they confiscate and put down they basically confiscate it at highest level, right? So they have some sort of detection method where they'll confiscate the footage. They'll get copies of the footage,
and then they're able
then they'll tell the people not to talk about it, and then they'll pass that data up to the parent USAP.
Yeah. What I was thinking is, like, not only will they tell them not to look at it, but I feel like nowadays it's definitely possible. Like, we know it's possible that it's immediately edited in a sense, or you just get a whole new story, right? So these things are collected, and the information you get about it when you send it up the channel, they tell you, oh no, this is what it was, and it's like a gaslighting,
right?
Like, even though the person who reported it gives you the information, and then they see it, like, I don't know, I just feel like it's definitely possible nowadays. I don't know if they're utilizing it, because I know a lot of the reports, especially with like the Tic Tac and the Go Fast videos, the pilots are seeing the videos that they also witnessed, and they're seeing the same thing. But I'm imagining them having the capabilities of like instantaneously having access to these things, especially if these things continue
right
in the future. And I'm just going off on a tangent here, but like having the capabilities of like instantly manipulating the footage or what it is perceived to like these spy programs, or like
maybe just removing it and taking it.
But we know that the government is experimenting. At least we have high likelihood that the government is experimenting with a lot of these technologies, hardware and software, whether it be human capabilities to manipulate or AI's ability to manipulate footage in real time. Like, these things aren't far-fetched. I mean, this is obviously like creating a conspiracy out of nothing type of, scenario, but I think it's possible in the future if we don't take seriously what's going on now for this
whether or not they
transparency.
edit it, they at the very least they're collecting it, because it seems like what this
narrative, which is kind of the same thing.
Yeah, but I don't know how much they care about like what a low-level pilot airman thinks about what they saw, as long as like if they saw something super crazy, it's communicated to them to not talk about it.
That's a good point.
And
You
as
can
long
just shut
as
it
they get the high quality copy of the video and maybe remove it from whatever servers.
Then there's no proof, so it doesn't matter what they actually say.
Right. But
so Fravor could just
it seems like what they're doing is they're creating a giant repository. They're creating the data that all these scientists are asking for.
They're creating it?
They're creating a repository of the data.
Oh, okay.
High quality signal intelligence data.
Right.
Which is exactly what the Neil Tysons of the world are asking for. Where's the data? Like, here it is. It's an Immaculate Constellation.
So we just need
hundreds or thousands of videos, radar, satellites, all this stuff, right? Maybe probably even classified underwater sensors and crazy stuff like that.
I think it's going to get into that too. So in conclusion of I think this is in conclusion of the introduction, or no, section 1.
Yeah.
In conclusion, Immaculate Constellation shows that the USG is not only aware of the UAPs and TUOs, but also foreign state efforts to replicate UAPs and TUOs capabilities. The data within Immaculate Constellation reveals the capacity of the U.S. Armed Services and military intelligence community to detect, track, and identify and engage anomalous transmedium platforms. Immaculate Constellation also demonstrates the extant capability to detect, quarantine, and transfer the UAP RV collection incidents before they are observed. So that's what I was talking about. Before they are observed. Demonstrates the extent capability to detect, quarantine, and transfer the UAP RV collection incidents before they are observed and circulated within the military intelligence. That's what I was saying. Like
before they're observed and circulated. Right. So like
that means that they are able to
not necessarily like precog or anything, but like when an event happens, they are plugged in to the point where like they get the info
Instant
right
access.
away, and they immediately go and try and shut down the rumor mill from
starting. And you know what
starting.
that makes me think of? Who's making the technology that are going into these platforms?
Right.
Private companies.
Right.
Contracted by the U.S. military.
They probably have safeguards within their like
back doors in every system.
The instruments on jet fighters.
Back doors in every
system. So that
system.
the black box that's taking all the data for the flight is flagging the parent company to let the SAP know that, hey, you guys need to go collect this data.
Or it's happening immediately.
Well, yeah, sure, maybe.
Or it's happening in real time.
The ability to detect, quarantine, and transfer instantly, right? Yeah.
Before they have a backdoor in every technology that are being
so that
put into
you're a pilot, you go on some flight, you see something, and then you're like, dude, let's go watch back this footage. Dude, you would not believe what I saw. And you go to play it back, and it's black right at the moment that you saw it.
Yep.
Because the plane already knew that like this is a thing that it's supposed to.
So precog in the sense of what you might expect,
right?
Them being capable of, but not precog in the sense of these companies are making the technology that are being put into a lot of these technologies that are being deployed by the military. So if you put a back door, so that the information is streaming to you and there's some sort of lag.
This is so interesting. Okay, so like let's say it's got like AI on board, right? So that it's able to tell the difference between a jet fighter, a balloon, a disc-shaped UFO, right? And maybe that's why like things like the gimbal and Go Fast and Nimitz footage were not
flagged. Wouldn't have been flagged
because they're not these classic saucer shapes. They're these weird like tic tac shapes, which maybe are less common, and maybe they didn't build the system to like automatically flag, transfer, and then delete the footage, right? Mm-hmm. And so maybe it's only these like weird platforms that are not like the conventional. They don't fall in like the bulk of the camel's hump of the bell curve. They're those.
Right.
They're in the long tail.
They're the edge cases.
Right. And so those systems aren't meant to.
They're not at least as supplied with the information needed. So
Once there's enough incidents of something like that, it can be built into.
That's why we're not seeing them so much currently.
Interesting.
A lot what we're seeing, we see a couple of videos, and these were old videos that probably had some sort of autocorrect, and there was some sort of input that's like, all right, flag these. They're
okay. Yeah.
And then,
no, I see where you're going with your little conspiracy.
What are we seeing now? Jellyfish is like a big thing coming out now,
which is
another
probably
edge.
One of those weird
edge
case that like they didn't have built into the detection systems to blackball it right away.
And maybe that is a clue in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
So what if it is that the shape of it is fluid, and what we're seeing is what we can see because it's what's not being detected by these systems?
Yeah. All right, let's keep it going.
Okay. So we finished the conclusion there, right?
Did you? I don't know.
Maybe not.
Either way, let's keep going. Section 2.
Section 2 is U.S. government imagery intelligence. The USG maintains imagery intelligence databases accessible to personnel within the appropriate security clearances and mission need. These databases are scattered across various organizations and services, leading to a fragmented ownership structure. This dispersion complicates the timely and comprehensive gathering of imagery intelligence related to the unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs. Control over access to these data sets primarily resides within the military-industrial enterprise.
Military intelligence.
Intelligence enterprise, yeah. The combatants' commands, the armed services, and individual program managers. The IM collection from data sets available to the DoD, or Department of Defense, and reviewed for this report provided compelling evidence for UAPs which defy prosaic explanations. These are a large number of the unique imagery sensors available to the U.S. government or U.S. military and intelligence community, including infrared or forward-looking infrared, full motion video, or FMV, thermal, and still photography. The multitude of wavelengths collected by these sensors have captured UAP characteristics that are difficult or impossible to observe with the human eye alone. Subtle atmospheric effects associated with UAPs are visible through the sensors employed by the U.S. military and its intelligence agencies, enabling unique analytic techniques. The verifiable chain of custody for a UAP IMINT collection, or imagery intelligence, collected by U.S. military assets ensures a high level of confidence in the accuracy and integrity of the data gathered. The following examples are presented. CENTCON, or cuboid formation of metallic orbs. On U.S. government networks, there exists daytime full motion video and daytime forward-looking infrared footage of a formation of 12 metallic orbs skimming the ocean surface at high speeds before dispersing in multiple directions. The rapid and agile maneuvering of the metallic orbs were incompatible with known aerospace vehicles and were between 3 to 6 meters in diameter. In the opening segment of the footage, the 12 metallic orbs flew in a tight cuboid formation. The metallic orbs were in 3 vertical square formations of 4 orbs each, arranged in a 3-pronged configuration, creating the illusion of a cube shape at distance. All the orbs were white hot against the black cold ocean in the FLIR footage, and each sphere created a faint atmospheric distortion both around itself and as a heat shimmer contrail. The metallic orbs moved in the cube formation over the ocean for some time before rapidly breaking formation as pairs. The sensor platform lost track of the metallic orbs as they ascended in altitude and accelerated in speed. but maintained observation of a pair of the metallic orbs continuing the original trajectory of the larger formation.
Okay, so he's given us a description of these different videos that have been captured.
Right.
So he's not sharing the videos, but he's describing them.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
CENTCON, or fast mover observed transitioning over the sensitive facilities. On U.S. government networks, there exists FLIR footage of a small, medium, oval UAP flying at high speed and low to the surface. The footage begins as a routine surveillance of a sensitive coastal facility when the oval UAP rapidly comes into frame. As it flies above coastal facilities, the oval UAP then makes a rapid turn towards the ocean, where it's tracked by a collection of platforms. By the collection platform. The oval UAP is tracked flying low over the open ocean at high speeds before the track is lost.
Mm.
Yeah. So there's a handful of these. Equilateral triangle UAP tails unwitting vessel. So on U.S. government networks, there exists infrared footage of an equilateral triangle UAP, approximately fighter jet sized, hovering less than 200 meters above a vessel in the night at a location in the Pacific. Intelligence analysis associated with this event specifies that equilateral triangle is an ARV or RV of unknown origin. The vessel gives no signs that it is aware of the ARV or RV, maintaining altitude and bearing directly overhead. 2 lights on the underside of the ARV/RV are visible, while a third is blocked from the view due to a slightly upward angle of orientation.
Interesting.
That's a abduction if I ever heard about one. Just hovering over a vessel in the ocean, unless they were working together, maybe.
Well, what's weird about this is he's calling it an ARV. Which means he is saying this is a reproduction vehicle, which means he is straight up saying in this case this is one of ours.
Right. And that would make sense why it would hover over a vessel, especially if the vessel is like assigned to it in some way. Like if they're ocean bearing, like it maybe lands on it, maybe it's like some sort of carrier.
Yeah.
It doesn't specify, but large disc using clouds as concealment. I thought this one, when I heard this one, was like it basically described that photo that we just talked about on the last episode of it being fake.
Oh yeah.
That's what I think of anyway. I don't know if that's the same one, but
it makes me think of the Jordan Peele movie about UFOs. Which one's that called?
I don't remember the name.
Anyway, yeah, there's it's like hanging in the clouds at one point, and then it like reveals itself to be a UFO.
Let's see. So on U.S. government networks, there exists OPIR footage, which is, I don't know, they didn't
optical OP infrared. Anyway, something infrared.
Footage of a large saucer-shaped UAP emerging from within a dense cloud formation. The saucer registered black hot against a white cold, with atmospheric disturbances caused by the saucer-shaped UAP visible. The saucer was between 200 and 400 meters in circumference and displayed symmetrical concavities on the upper surface. The saucer-shaped UAP emerges at the shallow angle, traveling upwards towards the outer atmosphere. After breaking above the cloud cover, the saucer-shaped UAP suddenly reverses its direction, descending partially back into the cloud cover, then accelerating rapidly out of frame and partially obscured by the cloud. I think they meant cloud.
Yeah, it's
cloud tops.
Misspelled as could tops.
Yeah. This behavior was evasive in nature and implied that the saucer-shaped UAP had become aware that it was under observation by a space-based collection platform.
OPIR is overhead persistent infrared.
Okay.
Do we want to read all these?
I was going to say we can probably skip through and go to the next section here.
I mean, we're going to link to the whole thing. So if you want to read these descriptions of, it's a bunch of descriptions of videos he claims that they have at...
Which is cool to have
Immaculate
a
Constellation.
description of some of these videos.
No, I'm going to read through all these, but I don't want to burn all our time. We're at an hour 40 already, so...
Well, let's just finish it off with this then. Let's just keep going on this.
Section 3. Let's go on to Section 3.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
Okay, yeah.
Section 3, Defense Human Intelligence Reporting. The U.S. government maintains a database of intelligence collected by military personnel across a plethora of topics, including UAP. These individual reports are considered raw because they have not undergone evaluation, corroboration, or contextualization into a finished analytical product by military intelligence community analysis. A significant volume of the reports documenting firsthand encounters with unidentified aerial phenomenons or unidentified flying objects by DoD personnel exists within the HUMINT.
The human. Yeah, that's human intelligence.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Many of the UAP reports are filed by military aviators and pilots, as well as service members trained in foreign military intelligence collection activities, and often include photographic evidence and sensor data. When aggregated, these reports reveal significant information on UAPs. This section is directly informed by reviewing over 400 defense human intelligence reports on encounters within UAP UFOs by U.S. government personnel, spanning from 1991 to 2022. It must be noted that this data set is not exhaustive. Other human intelligence data sources exist which are omitted from this analysis. The Defense Human Intelligence Dataset summarized here highlights notable trends in the reporting stream and are presented here along with specific examples.
Okay, so now we're going into a couple of human intelligence examples. Yep. All right, let's read a couple of these maybe and then skip to the next section.
So these basically describe a lot of what's being seen by the public, right?
So human intelligence is not necessarily the public. It could be like military officials,
non-aviators and such.
Yeah, like anyone within the the purview of the DoD who is required to debrief after, you know.
So from 1991 to 2022, a most common UAP shapes reported in the U.S. Government's data set were sphere, orbs, discs, saucers, ovals or tic-tacs, triangles, boomerangs or arrowheads, irregular, organic, and these are basically the most common, right? Yeah. And then there's these outliers, the smooth spheres with protuberances,
the
saucers.
Triangles, boomerangs, and arrowhead shapes were by far the rarest.
Yeah.
And the sphere is the most common. Interesting.
Yeah. The variations of morphology within these categories are present. An example, smooth spheres and spheres with protuberances, saucers without domes and saucers with domes, smooth ovals and just ovals. Other surface structures, jellyfish or floating brains with appendages and elongated triangles as well as equilateral triangles. So it just goes over the descriptions of what these are for the next
spheres and orbs, little description.
And then it goes on to these tables where it shows the common observable behaviors and characteristics of each of the shapes and what those shapes do and what they're seen to have done.
So, for instance, Table 1 on spheres and orbs, it says observable size ranges from small objects to those several meters in diameter. Speed, capable of stationary hovering to rapid acceleration. Speeds surpassing conventional aircraft have been noted. Signatures often lack conventional signatures such as heat trails and electromagnetic effects on military electronics reported. Colors varied with gray, metallic, grayish blue, white, white yellow, and red, orange red being prevalent. Surface details ranges from completely smooth to reflective to having visible protuberances, appendages, concavities, and openings. Behaviors: high maneuverability, including abrupt direction changes and the ability to hover, often observed to fly in complex geometrical formations and operate in tandem. Atmospheric phenomena: occasional disturbances in cloud formations and heat wave contrails have been reported. Biological effects: close observers reported feelings of unease and electronic device malfunctions. And they've got a reading like that for all of the different types.
I want to go to the irregular and organic.
Okay.
I want to read that one. So the irregular and organic, the observables are size, highly variable from small, compact forms to larger, more sprawling structures. Speed, movements range from slow drifting to rapid acceleration, often unpredictable. Some reports include unusual sounds or expected aerodynamic noise. Electromagnetic effects are common, often described with bioluminescent qualities. Oh yeah, sorry. So signatures are the electromagnetic effect and the aerodynamic noise. Colors, they're often described with bioluminescent qualities or shifting colors, particularly for floating brain or jellyfish types.
Floating brains.
Surface details describes vary widely from smooth, fluid-like surfaces to complex and articulated
structures,
which is just crazy.
The table continues on the next page.
So behaviors demonstrates a wide range of behaviors from controlled maneuvering to erratic patterns of movement. Shape-shifting abilities have been reported. Biological effects. Observations include physical sensations of warmth or cold, unexplained smells of like ozone is one of the examples, and psychological distress. The unique emissions. Floating brain jellyfish UAPs occasionally exhibit patterned luminescence or fluctuating lights and colors, typically only visible in the higher end of the electromagnetic spectrum. Atmospheric phenomena. Sudden temperature drops and the appearance of clouds have been reported. Those are crazy.
Dude, I want to see a flying human, a flying brain.
That would be great.
That's so cool.
So examples of defense human intelligence reports some of the people or the types of personnel or flight deck personnel.
Close encounter of a CVN by flight deck personnel. CVN is one of these types, right?
Yep. And then I don't know. It doesn't say right there. So, and then there's also metallic orbs that are intercepted by F-22 on CONUS air surveillance and on mission control. So there's a metallic orbs being detected by pilots.
Perimeter of
sensitive facilities breached by UAP. So obviously these have radar and other.
This is probably one of those examples of a nuclear facility having a UAP come into it.
Section 4, we can move on to Section 4 here. Department of Defense bureaucratic records. Discrepancies found throughout the internal records of AARO and DoD interactions with Congress cast serious doubts on the integrity of DoD statements on the elected leaders of the United States to the elected leaders of the United States government. Extant transcripts held by DoD leadership show a pattern of trivialization, obfuscation, and outright denial of UAP data.
In what were intended to be highly classified, private, and transparent conversations with appropriate congressional members.
Right, so they're just flat out
lying
poo-pooing. Like they're saying there's nothing here. Why are you even asking us for this? But then there's all these examples, right? Like we just went over all of those examples.
Right.
Specific examples known to the author include denying the existence of multiple compartmented access programs owned by the Military Industrial Agency or Intelligence Agency.
Military Intelligence Agency.
So CAPs, these are the highly secretive compartmentalized programs. which directly related to the UAP mission, denying the existence of joint DoD interdepartmental special access programs directly related to the UAP mission and the study of TUOs. And finally, the denial of the existence of Immaculate Constellation by DoD representatives to appropriate congressional members and their staff. So yeah, this is just basically telling us that they are flat out denying that this exists and that they're not reporting anything like this to the Congress and to the oversight committees.
Separately, additional internal records confirms the claims of Mr. Lue Elizondo regarding ATIP OSAP's mission, activities, and findings. Additional documents support the exceptional character and credibility of Mr. Elizondo. These non-public documents include letters of commendation, service award nominations, performance, promotion reviews, archived email chains, and ATIP OSAP program briefings, which directly corroborate the public statements of Mr. Elizondo. These records also provide additional insight into the activities of ATIP OSAP, the evolution of the program's findings, and its interactions with the senior DoD leadership. Finally, these records provide insight into highly classified and suppressed areas of scientific research and technology development derived from the study and exploitation of UAP and NHI technologies. Interesting. You know what's funny about this is in Lue's book, he does talk about there being like a centralized sort of database of high quality footage. He just said like it's classified and he can't release it. But he was able to pick these 3 videos that he thought weren't so crazy and he thought had a good chance of being able to be declassified. And that's how we got the gimbal go pass and Tic Tac.
Yeah. So Section 5, restricted U.S. government historical records. The serial number, it's G00162-78. This serial number corresponds to an official NSA report published in 1978. The existence and content of this report was verified by accessing the appropriate intelligence archives. The substance of the report concerns scientific research in the Soviet Union on the topics of parapsychology, or PSI, and biological effects of UAPs on humans. Additionally, the existence of this reporting stream demonstrates that U.S. intelligence was explicitly tasked to collect on foreign entities active in the areas often relegated to the fringes of scientific research, including parapsychology and the biological effects of encounters with UAP. The fact that significant intelligence resources were dedicated to understanding and exploiting information related to UAPs and NHIs highlights a strategic commitment to understanding the full scope of UAP, NHI, and TUOs. These and other classified accounts provide a rare public glimpse reveal to the contours of a secretive, decades-long competition between major terrestrial powers to collect, exploit, and field novel technologies derived from the study of UAPs and NHI. So, yeah, this is an NSA report basically talking about the importance of this information and what it means.
Yeah.
So Section 6 here, signals intelligence. A substantial body of sensitive signals intelligence collected from peer and near peer countries demonstrate foreign awareness of UAP events occurring over their sensitive military and intelligence facilities, including nuclear weapons facilities. Due to the exceptionally sensitive nature of the sources and methods involved, only general conclusions are provided here. Foreign countries are known to have observed UAPs whose signatures and behaviors correlate to those observed by the United States. These UAP events are treated by the security apparatus of each state as serious national security threats due to UAP and proximity of sensitive military and intelligence facilities. These facilities are often associated with aerospace defense, strategic deterrence, and military-sponsored scientific research and development. On multiple occasions, each of these nations have attempted to intercept and shoot down UAPs, violating their territorial airspace and airspace over sensitive facilities. Foreign countries have internal organizations dedicated to studying ambiguous threat posed by the ambiguous threat posed by UAPs, deducing scientific principles through observing UAPs, and the careful management of the public perceptions of the UAP issue.
Interesting. This is an interesting sentence. Foreign countries have internal organizations dedicated to studying the ambiguous threat posed by UAPs, deducing scientific principles through observing UAPs. And like what
reverse engineering.
Well, yeah. And deducing scientific principles. If you see an orb and you have evidence of an orb or a UAP, some sort of like nuts and bolts craft in your sky that you can see on radar, you can see on video, you know it's real,
but it's not.
And you see it
performing.
You see it accelerate and make like 90-degree turns. You are able to start deducing what sorts of things must be true because
you see the physics being broken.
We know, even if that thing was made of some of the strongest metals, it would just fall apart.
Yeah.
At those speeds,
and if there was anything inside of it, they'd be dead.
Which makes you start to deduce that there must be some sort of gravitational or inertial manipulation.
Right. Yeah, because otherwise, you would, if there was anything alive in those things, they would also be just vaporized. With the vehicle.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So section 7 here is very, very short. Sensitive sources from mouth to ear. In conclusion, the official disclosure of the existence of non-human intelligences and their presence on Earth is a pivotal moment in human history. The nature of this information is of such incomparable relevance to the public good that it demands to be shared. Some may object and say that disclosure at this time poses too many risks. To them, it must be said that we will never be able to predict how individuals, families, and communities and nations will react to revelations of such magnitude. Moving forward, we must guard against the lure of authoritarian solutions justified by expediency and appeals to national security. The good of humanity will always triumph through time. And it is in moments of crisis that our capacities for achieving the extraordinary are discovered. Be not afraid. Scientia igne probata, veritas perfidum.
Interesting. What does that mean?
Translate that.
Scientia igne probata. Science something.
It says right there. Knowledge and awareness.
Knowledge by fire is tested. Truth by faith is found in. Isn't it more like truth by faith is tested? This is a Latin subreddit trying to break it down.
Yeah, we're trying to decipher this. It's not just.
Well, according to Reddit.
Yeah. Knowledge is proven and tested through fire. Truth through faith and
is
loyalty.
knowledge/awareness. Igne is ignites or sparks. Probata
is faith,
evidence,
and
proof. Veritas is truth. Per being through or by, and fidem being faith. So knowledge or awareness ignites or sparks evidence or proof. So like knowledge ignites evidence, or knowledge sparks proof. Truth by faith, truth through faith. So, according to this person, Osha2 on Reddit, he says, yes, but the meaning of the fragment is only implied. proved/tested would be most accurate.
This is what AI.
He says the best interpretation would probably leave it open. Knowledge is proven by fire, truth by faith.
So this is the AI is basically the same thing, but it translates roughly to knowledge tested by fire, truth through faith. But it essentially means that true knowledge is proven through rigorous testing and is ultimately found through faith or strong belief.
Right. So it's almost like making a distinction of the difference between knowledge and truth, right? So knowledge, like facts, essentially, you get those through fire, through like technology and testing.
And then you get truth through faith.
You get truth through faith, right?
Yeah, that's what it's saying.
Interesting.
I like that quote. I like that phrase.
Yeah,
actually,
I do too.
Because it's kind of open ended. It
acknowledges the duality.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, we should have that go around our logo.
Ooh, we can definitely do it for this episode at least.
Ooh, you're challenging me. We'll see what I can do.
All right. Well, I think we're good for the day, man. That was a perfect little episode, and I hope you all enjoyed it. If you guys enjoyed the audio version and you maybe want to get some of the video and
real quick,
images.
tell them about last episode and the video version for YouTube.
So yeah, we played some of the Netflix series through with Graham Hancock, and we got flagged, so we took down the video of what we had in there. But I'm gonna retroactively go in and try to add the video back in and just make it so that hopefully they allow it.
So like we probably tried to put the video as like full screen and full quality, and they're like, this is Netflix's copyrighted content.
It's
you can't
too much.
do that, right? So
so we'll change it up a little bit and we'll try to get that back in. So if you did see that and you noticed that the video is gone, it is on Rumble. Right. The full video with everything is on Rumble if you want to go check it out.
So rumble.com/duality check.
And
just search duality check on Rumble.
Just search duality check on there. Yeah, you can just hit the search bar. AI knows what to do.
Right.
But yeah, if you want the full video stuff, it's Rumble, YouTube. If you are listening in your car or while you're working and you just want the audio, you can hit us up on any podcast app.
Anywhere you find your normal podcast, you can find us.
And
if there's a place you listen to podcasts and you can't find us, let us know because we want to be there.
Yeah. And if you got any anecdotes or any stories or just want to chat about what we just went through in this episode, let us know at host at dualitycheck.net. Check us out on dualitycheck.net. It's got everything up there, video, and we got audio, we got all the links, everything you need. So if you want to find out when our episodes are dropping, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. All right, we'll catch you later.
Knowledge is proven by fire, truth by faith. Adios.